Shane, how are you? Good to see you. How are things in Ohio these days? Well, tonight it's a little bit more of like an inside baseball kind of situation that we're working on here. I've been very, very busy with other stuff, so I haven't been able to put as much time into Undersea Hero as I would like. It's a little rainy in the Ohio. It's a big state, so hopefully it'll pass quickly. It was foggy here today, so out in New England here. But what I'm working on are the layouts for the last, 10 pages or so, and I should have them done this weekend. And for those that have picked up issue 0, you know that the preview for Great Barrier Reef is the first 8 pages of the story. It leaves you, with a cliffhanger there, and then there's some posters and short stories and all kinds of goodies in it. But I have thumbnailed out the entirety of pretty much everything else. You can see how I do these, and what I like to do is I will draw the whole book like this, and then I'll go back and reread it as a comic book, and then I can edit and stuff and do things at that time. When I do the speech balloons while I'm doing it, it gives me a really good idea of space, because you can see that this is actually comic book sized, or very close, because I don't want to, and one thing that I'm loath to do is put too much junk into a page, because when you're drawing at 11 by 17, it looks like there's a lot of real estate, but then when you shrink it down, you see that there's just nowhere near as much space. And even just, a single sentence can take up a fair amount of real estate in a panel. So, and also how it gets broken up and how I want it to be read, the order of the pacing. A lot of people know me. I use a lot of ellipses. I'll use dashes, anything to change the cadence of speech. And there's a fair amount of captions in addition to the dialogue balloons and boxes and everything else that's going on in here. But what I will do is I will take my script and break it down into just, the plot and what actions need to happen on each page. And even if I have to break it down again, like here, I realized I needed to have another page 20 that needed to be redone and inserted, because there was an inconsistent bit of storytelling where a character who was supposed to be on one side of the panel was not, and it broke the 180 rule. So, and then I go in and I create a nice little pencil drawing like this. I'll space it out, and I'll just go in and letter it just as if it was a page. I mean, there's going to be some spoilers for at least this page, because we've got Professor Prawn right here on his little floaty platform. I admit I was thinking about the Street Fighter movie with Raul Julia's little platform of doom that he has in that movie. I don't know if anyone's seen that movie. It's terrible, but it was something that was in my youth as a just piece of pop culture that everybody knew about. There was like that moment in time in the 90s when they were like, oh, we'll try to make video game movies. And they did Double Dragon. They did, I think Mario Brothers was first. How many issues am I working on? For Undersea Hero, the Kickstarter story is a triple-sized issue, so it's like 3 books. So it's going to be 48 pages or so, 52 in there, and I have a couple of offers out to friends of mine to do backup stories, so it could be a little longer. But what the plan is to then break it up into 3 single issues and then offer them to stores, either myself or with a distributor or if a publisher wants to do the repackaging. It's one of the reasons I need everybody's help with the Kickstarter. Is a lot, I've actually worked on books that the Kickstarter did so well that the publisher said, "Hey, we'd like to repackage and put that out." Now, I'm not saying I'm going to make thousands and thousands of dollars on this, but if we get some buzz going, and some friends of mine, I know some really the Comic Crusaders folks offered to put it on their website, and I'm hoping some for other friends in the media that will help me out, and just my friends online, just sharing the posts when they go out. Like, it helps tremendously, and that's what people, I don't know if they realize, is like that's how they measure analytics for so many things. It's just the social media engagement. But here you can see I wanted to have a big speech bubble because Professor Prawn is like very excited. I can show you a previous page. Hi, Desiree. From our giant pile of. See, and I'll even do like 2-page spreads. Like, I'll do them sideways. This is like the big musical number. I wanted to do those in interconnecting pages so that when it's done, I could actually publish it as a big long poster, almost like a scroll that's just the musical number. I thought that would be cool. I wish I could do like a fold out, like 4-page fold out, like back in the 90s. I thought that would be really cool, but I just can't swing it. It's just way too expensive to do an insert like that. Where's Professor Prawn? His little platform of doom. Here he is, just yelling for Krill Force. There's this little platform. There's Krakus playing dice at the casino. There's Liquid Lad's first appearance. It'll be in the book. There's Krakus and whooping it up. There's where is that little platform? It's got little, it's almost like Jetsons propulsion. You ever watch the Jetsons? Where they have like little scooters that float through the air, and there's just little circles that go boop, boop, boop. Ah, there it is. There it is. You can see this is him on his little platform. I'll zoom in so you can see it. It's got those little propulsions going forward, so you can see him floating. There's the correlator looking at the view screen on the one eye shape. And there's this little platform floating behind him. So you can get real close. And see, that's how I answered the question of scale. One of the things that's really hard is having, and you see it in like Avengers comics, like how do you have Ant-Man when he's this big, talk to a normal sized person? You need to be able to somehow like either have him standing on a shoulder or on a branch or something close by. That way you can have them both in the camera shot. And this isn't as like fun as like seeing the finished watercolor, but this is honestly what so much of my work is. Like, this is how I'll write short stories that never get used, all kinds of things. Although last time we were on here, Josh from Rubber Chicken said I could submit some stuff to them, so maybe some of those short stories they'll escape, as Dr. Thompson would say. Professor Prawn is yelling, so we'll probably do like a reinforced, where you see like a thicker stroke around the balloon, something like that. And the joke here is that I try to have something at least amusing on every page. And the joke on this page is he presses the big button, and of course, it doesn't work right away. And that's the classic, delay for punchline. And one of the ways I like to do things is, we have the correlator just yelling, "Where's my krill force?" Which is just a funny thing to say. And then we have Professor Prawn just flipping the on-off switch up and down. So you have a sight gag, which we don't address, and then you have the delay tactic, which will then actually get paid off later on, how that gets kicked into gear, how the krill force gets unleashed, and what him doing to make that happen causes another thing to happen. It's the classic writing exercise of this happens, so this, therefore this. And of course, like, you have to label like the important buttons, just like in the 1960s Batman. And I don't know, I don't even know if people are going to want to see this video, because it's like, you're not going to see pretty drawings, you're going to see the rough drawings. So like here we've got Professor Prawn has like a big bushy mustache, because I think a shrimp with a mustache is funny. Here, we'll zoom in closer with our fancy hand crank zoom. There we go. Now you can only see the top of the page, but we will. Here's my model sheet for Professor Prawn. Let's see, he's got his little, it's a shrimp with Einstein hair, a mustache, and a lab coat. And he actually like stands on, for some reason, two of his legs are more advanced than the others, and he's got arms. But like I described the book, it's like the Tick and Aquaman meet the Muppets. His eyes are on like the side of his head. He doesn't look too much like a real shrimp, but I think he gives off the shrimp energy well. It's got the scale. See, we've got the scale. Person, little tiny shrimp. Oh yeah, if people want to see the behind the scenes stuff, I'm happy to put it in there. I do plan on serializing issue 0 as part of like the countdown, so you'll be able to see the first, 9 pages before it goes live, and then maybe even a couple extras, because obviously I'll have more than that done by then. And look, if all I get is my one book, and I the Kickstarter is mildly successful, then I'll be thrilled. If it goes beyond that, I would love, because I've talked to other. It's all the tiny little legs, yes. Yep, you got to have the tiny little legs, and they all do stuff. That's one of the hard things with drawing the sea creatures, is whether it's the Lord Crackus pages or the shrimp pages or everything else. All the little legs do stuff. And as a person with currently only having 2 legs, it's difficult for me to sometimes, plan out the scenes in an intuitive way. He's got his tiny little fist. Ethan says shrimp energy for sure. Thank you, Ethan. But I've talked to other creators, and I definitely would love to have other people do their own Undersea Hero stories and stuff like that in the future if they wanted to. I've talked to other Tick creators. I've talked to, because there's not a, there's a lot of connective DNA between my character and the Tick, because I was such a big Tick fan as a kid. I've shown it on the stream before, but it's in issue 0. You can see my like sophomore year drawing assignment from college that's in there. I did that back in college, back in 2004 4. So yeah, and it's gigantic. It was a gigantic drawing, like 20 by 30. And Professor Prawn's logo is, of course, like, you know, it's a pea, it's a shrimp with like the little tail. And then I thought about putting glasses on it because he's a professor. Little floaty platform. See, and I needed to look at that previous page because I forgot that, the propulsion is actually 2 little dots. See, the idea is that he's like floating down and then forward towards the viewer. So, we would probably have a light source coming from up over here. This is probably where the light source needs to be. Got a little handlebar for the little shrimp hands. Little handlebar. And then when I'm doing the prelims like this, I don't always use like a brush or like the, stuff that's designed to be archived. Sometimes I'll just grab a Sharpie and, fill in stuff that needs to just be filled in. And these are the types of things that, I just put in my little prelim binder at conventions. And, some people don't think anything of it and other people really like them. I actually collect them from other artists. I've got a great set of prelims. I've got like a Sal Velluto Justice League prelim that's beautiful. I've got like a Nick Bradshaw X-Men. I've got a Greg and Tim Hildebrandt prelim from the Marvel Masterworks paintings. Got all kinds of prelims. Got some Ralph Reese prelims. They're inexpensive and they're just so informative. I learned stuff from those. When Professor Prawn gets really into his work, he gets like the swirly eyes, the crazy swirly eyes. So I'd probably include like as a reward tier, like if people wanted like a random page of the prelims, like from the whole book, like just throw on an extra whatever I usually charge for them. I don't know, $25, I think. Although I do have one person who keeps asking me for like how much it would cost for the whole book of prelims. He may be in attendance this evening. I got a couple of vendors that I sent out for quotes on just some little things like stickers. I'm not a huge sticker guy, but anything that people like that'll fit in the regular shipping box, I'm open to. And I just was talking to my buddy. I got his Kickstarter rewards. Craig Russo. They do a really really nice job with their Kickstarters for the Perhaponauts, and I just got got their Cryptids field guide. It's in the other room. I should have grabbed it. I'm a bad friend for not having it to plug in front of me. Imagine, if you will, a wonderful small hardcover book drawn by my pals and written by the guy who I grew up reading like his Wolverine and Spider-Man and all kinds of stuff. Telos. When you have a close-up of a shrimp, I usually add some little dots because when you look at a shrimp up close, they have those little, almost like freckles. I showed this around a little bit at San Diego to some people, and everybody thought it was funny and charming. I hope it translates to them liking it when it's done. I've been working on it pretty late at night. Shane says that Craig and Todd do great Kickstarters. I totally agree. I think they do. They always fulfill on time. They always get the books out and done. That has to do with, Craig is a pro's pro as far as getting the pages done. And he's good with the fulfillment stuff. Like he was showing me some different aspects actually through PayPal where you can get media mail. Apparently, instead of having to go to the post office, you can get media mail through your PayPal account, which is good for everyone because it saves you guys on money. Assuming that you're backing said Kickstarter or any Kickstarter in the future. When you see the little shrimp hands up close, they're segmented like a lobster's claws. One of the most informative things that I've been watching lately for my work, other than the end of Shark Week in July, has been Looney Tunes, old episodes of Looney Tunes on HBO Max. I don't know if anyone has watched any of those in 100 years other than me, but as far as visual comedic timing, they're just brilliant. And it's not just that everyone likes to point to the Chuck Jones episodes. It's not just his work. Like there's so many good episodes. I want it to look like he's got like fire coming out of his hand because he's pressing the button with all his shrimply might. Instead of just like speed lines or whatever, they're going to be like jagged like that. And there's going to be yellow and orange. It's going to look like an inferno hitting the launch button. And it's just a really simple shot, like having and part of the reason that I wanted the balloon to come up was so that when you read from here to here to here, you have to come down, your eye comes down, and it's just like you're pressing the button with Professor Prawn visually, like, and you may not even realize it, like, oh, that's why my eye goes down there like that. I do all the sound effects by hand, and then like on the prelims like this, I just kind of do bubble letters, and I'll do like fancier ones when we get to the pages. The sound effects being hit, clank, click, clunk, bzzz, as though like the power is going down. But I used to even go even a step further and do a tonal layer on top of it, but that just took way too much time. In this shot, I want Professor Prawn's mustache to be bristling, look like it's bristling back and forth, like he doesn't know what's wrong, and that's like his tick. So we'll have some motion lines around the bristling of the mustache. So he looks up inquisitively, and it's almost like he's reading the sound effects, like he's aware that they are, there's something wrong. And it's, one of the things that Howard Chaykin talks about in The Paradigm, which is his series of essays about visual storytelling, is that the reader is in on the story with you. It's part of the story. And you don't have to break the fourth wall to be cognizant that they are aware that they are part of it. And it doesn't have to be blatant. It can be nice and subtle. Like, you're not saying, like, he's not acknowledging these, but they're here where he's looking. It could just be where the sound is coming from, however you interpret it. I like to think that he sees those coming out of the machine somehow. Like, we'll put little sparks too. This is the part of making comics that I'm actually good at. I'm not great at rendering. I'm not great at covers, but the storytelling aspect, the panel-to-panel stuff, and that comes from having a background in writing. I have a degree from school in both writing and in art. So when it comes to storytelling, that's my forte. When I finally get to do this stuff, it makes me quite happy, because like I've been working really late, even on the weekends and stuff lately. But I was able to get enough stuff done this weekend. I even tweeted about it, that I was able to get to work on Undersea Hero late at night. And I was just having a ball. This step doesn't even feel like work, even though it is. Like, it very much is. I'm also free of like the drawing mistakes that I will make inevitably. If we could just color this and people would be like, yeah, that's a good enough drawing for me to read a book of that. But no, I have to take it to the next step and the next step and finish it for it to be a professionally finished piece of work. And that's where the real work comes in for me. Bristling his little mustache. A great book is the Animator Survival Guide by Richard Williams. Yeah, in this case, I did write the script. And even if I get another script, I will do these for other people's drawings, for other people's stories. I just don't usually fill out everything. What I'll do is I'll just number the speech balloons. Like, I'll put a 1 here if there's 1 speech balloon in this, and then I'll go 2, then 3, and then 4 and 5. And if there's, let's say there's multiple in each panel, then you would have, 3 would be here and 4 would be there. I just try to keep them in numerical order. And at this point, like, you can see the whole comic page. Like, you can see it coming together, how the flow works. And like, it starts it's really simple. Like, the trail of his little ship, his little platform, starts in the upper left corner. You read, you come down, and you're here. You're up to my moment. You see the crazy eyes up here, down. This angle here on the panel board, as well as what'll be like a little bit of shading here, is meant to point you back this way. Then we have big sound effects here. You look there, and then you're going to probably go from here, bristly mustache, to here, your eye probably, unless you skip over him completely, which is possible too. And then you'll come here. And this is all the thought that goes into just how one page is laid out. And it's why when, I see a comic book where the layouts are just trash, I want to know why. Like, I want to know why. Is it just because they don't have experience in it? Is it a new comic book artist? Was there a deadline? Was there? I mean, it's not always the penciler's fault. There's always extenuating circumstances. But oops. And one of the joke. Do you want me to spoil a joke? Why it's called Krill Force? Or do you want me to save that? There's already some spoilers in here, but this is not a huge spoiler page. And this is actually a pretty straightforward page. There's nothing weird about this part of the story, I would say, other than that there's a little Professor Shrimp. Well, strike that. It's plenty weird, but there's nothing too abstract. There's no truly abstract components at this point, I don't think, of this page. All right, well, I'll save it. It's a good joke. It's a good joke. I don't know. I don't want to ruin. It gets paid off early in the story, so maybe if we're working on that page, I'll spoil it at some point. But I actually also have some phony ads that I'm working on for in the book, just of stuff that's in the story that would be funny. And Krill Force is one of them. Actually, it's like an army recruiting poster that says, it's based on a classic recruiting poster from World War II. Join Krill Force. And the correlator's in a fist fight right now at this part of the story with Undersea Hero. So he's got like some blood coming out of his nose. Not a lot, just like a little to show that he's a little beat up, and we'll have like a black eye. But your classic, not too bad. It's such a dumb name. All right, fine. I'll spoil it. There's not a ton of folk in here, so it's early on. The correlator, actually, I think on page either 9 or 10. So it's right at the beginning of the book. It's right after the preview. Correlator's talking to Jana War and Colonel Feathers in the headquarters there inside their ship, and he keeps saying kill force, that this professor has created an unstoppable kill force. You can already see where this is going. It'll help him take over the seas and destroy Undersea Hero and all these things, and finally get his revenge and everything else. But when the professor pops in, he's like, point of order, it's a krill force or krill force. And then they go back and forth a little bit, like, but it's still deadly, right? Oh, yes, very deadly, the most deadly. And when you see krill force in action, you'll get a good laugh. I'm not spoiling that joke. That's like one of the most important jokes to the whole first issue is krill force in action. And right now, Professor Prawn in this last panel on this page. This is page 33. And you'll see I'll make changes to the dialogue on the fly, and this is definitely not the last. Like, you will see changes in a lot of the dialogue in the final thing. Ethan says it reminds him of Monty Python. That's a high compliment. I will accept that. I'm sure if you were to tweet that to any of the Pythons, they would be highly offended. But thank you. It's Kriller v. Krilled. That's right. Professor Prawn has some mysterious qualities to him. We don't really know why he's working with the correlator at this very moment, because clearly he's an undersea genius of sorts. His ability to masterfully create a very arguably, admittedly small, but deadly force of krill. Hey, I would absolutely send them a copy. And I had to put this joke in here because it had shown up so much in my life in the last, I would say, 2 years, just turning it off and back on. And I know it's such a cliche joke, but it's just like, it's so true. Like when I've called to troubleshoot things, oh, just turn it off and turn it back on. Hey, maybe that is the next t-shirt. Maybe that's I mean, would you like that to be the merit badge? Would it be an official member of Krill Force? Would everyone like to be official soldiers in the Krill Force Army? These are great ideas. I should probably have like 2 clicks, like as though it had gone down, like click clack, and then come back up. And then we'll show like some movement of the arm, show some motion lines. But now this is page 33. So we all know that the odd number is the right-hand side and the even number is the left-hand side. So what I can do is I can reach back into my bag of tricks here, take out page 32 and look at them next to each other just to make sure that the layout, when you have facing pages, there aren't any unintentional tangents. But you can see here's a big punch. This line's not going to be at the same level as this line, so we're good there. There will be a clean break. I don't think there's a bleed on any of this page. I think these are all no bleed, so I think we're good. Yeah, as far as tangents go on the 2-page thread, I think that this would work. We also talked about Crackus's court. Royal members of Crackus's court. But you can see Brian's in, just joining. But yeah, we can see that this is what the two facing pages will look like, you know, when you're on page, and then boom, and then it comes through. But the next one, we have to start from scratch. So you get to watch the really blank page start. And you can see my notes. Correlator's losing it. We've already done this part, haven't we? No. What have we done? Correlator and Spongeman Krill Force fails to launch. Okay, and then we have to have the Spongeman correlator unleashing the Spongeman. Does it? You remember who the Spongemen are? I'll show you who they are. They're like the little lackeys. They have little sponges attached to them, and like tiny little knives and snorkels, and they have to do what the correlator tells them to do. So we need in this page. Let me get a blank piece of paper. Do I have one here? I do. There's a nice blank piece of paper. And I'll show you from the first step of what I do, and I'm not going to use blue pencil so you can see it better. Hopefully, a little blurry. There we go. And on this page, because we just had on the previous page, we ended with a shot of Professor Prawn. We have to start with I think we need a tight shot on, we need to show correlator. Disappointed. Summoning. Spongeman. Then attacking UH. Now, one of the funny things, in my opinion, about this, the Spongeman, is that they only have snorkels. So when they're fighting someone, they have to go back up to the surface to breathe. So one of the visual jokes is like a couple of them will be fighting and a couple of them will be swimming back up to get air and coming. So like it's, even if there's like 50 Spongemen, he can only have like 10 or so fighting him at a time. So I actually think we need a circular panel. Hey, Michael, how are you? We need room for his speech balloon. And then we have a nice shot of the ship. Everybody remember what the ship looks like? Looks like a anglerfish. That's the ship. So I think if we have the ship, and then we have One of the good things about everyone being underwater is you can have poses that help your composition, and they don't have to look like they're standing upright or whatever. They can be floating in zero gravity, and it's become a very helpful thing. And then I think we need to show, we have him yelling like Spongeman attack. Then we can show the mouth opening of the ship from one side. And then I think we need to show, if our storytelling is coming this way, upper left, down right, show the mouth open. And then a whole bunch of the spongemen swimming out of the mouth, I think is what we need to do. And then we can show like a tiny undersea hero noticing the attack. And I would love like just a 4-panel sequence at the bottom. So we're going for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be a 7-panel page. Michael says he ended up having to order a reprint on his recent comic with a different cover. The reason is because my cover unintentionally resembles the V for Vendetta Absolute Edition that came out. And stuff happens. I'll come in with a tighter shot so you can see better. My high-tech zoom lens there. If this were a full circle, it would go off the page like so. And this is me really just trying to have the shapes kind of in 3D space. I'm not trying to overthink it. Just thinking about foreground, midground, background, having a horizon line. And again, one of the beauties of setting your world underwater is you can move the horizon line wherever you want to. It can go anywhere. You don't have to explain it. There's no gravity. And there's some sight gags that I've been working on, like to try to make more fun of that, like make it sillier. Someone who was really great about moving um, the horizon line. There's a particular book I have in mind too. Has anyone out there read The Nail by Alan Davis? It was an Elseworlds. They did two different versions of it, or two different stories. They did one and they did a sequel. And to me, that is Alan Davis at his most fluid. A balance of abstraction and exaggeration that I just think is on another level. It's a tremendous book, tremendous. They did a sequel called Another Nail, and it's set in the same world, and it picks up shortly after the first one. And they're both just dynamite. Anytime you see it in like one of those sets for $20 bins or whatever, or less, there were a few booths at Boston this year that had sets for cheap. And I wish I had the money. I would have bought a bunch of Christmas presents at that show for people, because it was good reading in those. And I don't know. I like, trades are great and all, but if I can find the issues for the same price or less, I like giving people the issues. You'll see the mouth open on his ship. Now this, I think, needs a caption here, something like the minions of the correlator. Lunge into battle in their signature orderly way. The joke being that they've been correlated. And then we need to show like the bottom of the jaw, and like the visual components that are the most striking, other than the shape, is also the color. So I'm going to be relying on the color and probably like one of the teeth, so that you see. The foreground ones need to be a little bigger. One thing I learned from Mike Vosberg, actually, when he was talking about, and maybe you'll find this interesting, Shane, is because this was regards to his G.I. Joe work, was that, and I haven't gone back to check it, is that anytime he had to do a group, he made sure, like a large group of soldiers, they were almost always in groups of 3. like divisions of 3, like it would be 9, 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. But having full human forms just get smaller and smaller, heading towards. Right now, they're just stick figures, and I'm just trying to figure out the spacing. And we need to have our Undersea Hero character, who's still bigger than everyone. Turning, I want him turning and looking surprised, you know, in that classic way. So like his legs are actually going to be over in this direction. Maybe you see one of his feet underneath like that. Yeah, that would be good. And it's at this point that people tell me that they can't tell what's going on in the pictures, and even my wife, when she sees this stage, can't tell what's going on. So and one of the things I always liked in zero gravity fights was when they would grab one of the bad guys and then hit another bad guy with it. So let's do that. I always thought that was funny. So maybe like what's the best way we can do this in 4 panels? He needs to grab one. Maybe he's already smacked one. He's got one in another hand. Show that like a motion line, like he's already been hit, and you show the reaction, like you're seeing the moment after the impact. So he's already hit him. And we see him, and then we have the little sponge on top, like we get a face-to-face shot of he and the sponge. See the sponge looking at him, and then he like sticks his tongue out at him, little sponge tongue. And he's like surprised. Because he's actually, Undersea Hero has him like by his shirt or something. And then you see the other spongemen like coming towards. You see like a couple of the little, these should be silhouettes so they don't take away from it. Then we'll show Undersea Hero having already thrown like a fastball special panel. And see, this bit of writing I just made up on the fly. Like the idea that he grabs a spongeman with a little sponge sitting on his head, and then the sponge sees Undersea Hero and sticks his tongue out at him like that. It's just a stupid little visual gag. And then we'll see that this guy also sticks his tongue out. So like, you know, anything that the sponge and the spongeman do, they both kind of mimic it. See that he's been thrown. Maybe we see that both the sponge and the spongeman are yelling because they've just been thrown. And then he crashes into the other one. So if the motion's coming up, we need the motion coming down again. So it basically goes. That's our action line there. It's almost like a heartbeat in those 4 panels. Now, the only thing I don't like about this top panel is the relationship of the ship to this head. They're the same size and they're taking up the same real estate, and that's not going to work. I think what we need to do is enlarge the ship in this panel to where you're only seeing one eye and it's big. Like right there. And then you're just seeing the bottom of the mouth open up, or at least start to open up. So the ship is much bigger scale-wise compared to what it was. I think that's what we need to do. Otherwise, it's going to look like he's giant or this is tiny, rather than giving it scale. Okay, they're flying up. All right, well, let's tighten this up a little bit. Okay, so come in here like this. This is my pen there's starting to die, so we'll come back in with this. Get our panels. And sometimes it's even rougher than this. Like I come in and I like to have really like just a lot of freedom on these prelims. And sometimes if I get too bogged down, I'll actually lightbox and redo them completely, or use parts of them, or use scissors and cut them out and paste it onto all the other ones. But this is really how I figure out my visuals. And it's little stupid panels like this, like the little sponge sticking its nose out or tongue out at Undersea Hero, that it's like, okay, I would love to just flip the book open to that panel and be like, do you find this funny? Yes, then you would like this book. I have so much I want to do for getting it ready for the Kickstarter, but I've just been bogged down with all kinds of life stuff. So it's one of the reasons I put out the call for help. Desiree says, hi, Jonathan. Hi, Brian. We can put that on the big screen. That's a Is everyone bored to tears with the preliminary process? This is like the solving visual problems part. I love it. And it's cartooning, like it's very much cartooning and not illustration. Like this is comic books. This is let me see if I have I can just use one of these. One of the elements of drawing the correlator for those playing at home is his head shape, actually. He just has like a huge lower jaw, and like the cranium isn't too big, so it's like that. You see his little eyes. Cranium is smaller than like your normal person head, and then he has like the giant neck. Sorry, that was out of frame, but small cranium, giant chin, pointy ear, big neck. If you ever wanted to draw him. Oh, somebody got new glasses. I must have missed that post. I too saw the Barbie movie. That was good. Have not seen Oppenheimer. No, I have not seen that yet. And I want to see the Dracula on the ship movie. Very much up my alley. Desiree says she got new glasses for distance when I'm driving at concerts and cons. I still have my progressives for everything else. Driving is important for the whole seeing business. Yeah, if you posted a pic, I'll have to take a look. All of my genetics say I will be joining the glasses-wearing brethren of the world soon. The one thing that I have in my vision that's super annoying is I have a lot of floaters, like free-floating debris in my eyes, which is not super fun. I remember telling my doctor about what I was seeing in my vision at one point. He's like, yeah, that just happens. As you get older. Slightly smaller pen. Yeah, it's really when I'm outside that I notice them, like looking up at the sky. It's really unpleasant. I don't know if there's much they can do about those, unfortunately. I don't know if they can do a lot about them in general, or if it's just the type that I have, or what. But right now, I'm just drawing kind of the basics for the correlator's form. Really, just working on his silhouette, so that if I were to like completely black it out, you'd still recognize that's who it is. Had one doctor say they got worse with age, and one day they will go away. Yeah, if I just don't, if I try to ignore them, there's this, what is it? I forget what it's called, where your vision just kind of like doesn't pay attention to them. They're still there, but they're not as annoying because I'm not focusing on them. It's just another example of another doctor just being like, yeah, you're fine, suck it up. For me, at least. These little scallop shell pasties. I can't say the book is all ages because of how goofy some of the stuff is and weird, but like it's not like an adult comic, so I don't know. I think it would. It's not any weirder than anything you would see on like Ren and Stimpy or Rocco's Modern Life. I don't think that was the stuff I grew up on. So like that weirdness was bound to get in there. Got his snail shell codpiece. If anybody ever dressed as the correlator, I would be impressed, but I'd also just apologize to them if there was ever a correlator cosplayer. Although he is one of the more entertaining characters in the long run of the story. Like his arc is very interesting. Because at end of book one, you learn what the status quo is for him and where it is going forward, like what the benchmark is. Ryan says, "Be prepared for cosplayers." Well, Undersea Hero is super easy because you could just wear a long sleeve shirt and a pair of black shorts and just a green shirt with a little crisscross pattern on it. That would be an easy one. I mean, if I had more labor hour, I could set up some like T Public site or something with the designs on it if people wanted to buy them. Oh, go for it. I think it would look very nice with like just you could do it with just like a yellow dress, like a yellow skirt with like little tentacles hanging off or whatever. I think that would be real. Or blue. It'd be blue with yellow tentacles. You could wear just a regular skirt And it could have the little tentacles hanging off of it. That would be awesome. I'm gonna have to work on that part, when we get to the hand there, when we get to the actual finished artwork. But you can see what he's doing. He's pointing. I actually want his arm to be swinging around, like, he swings it. And we have like a little burst of light at the end of his finger. He's just swung his arm like gregariously, and he's got his fist in the air, and it's got a little like trembling. Now, the other good thing about making the ship bigger, which I didn't intend, is there's going to be a break right behind the correlator's head. There's going to be a red spot right here in the center of the page. It's going to bring your attention. Michael says he misses the old bulky Pitt pen brushes. They were great. I might actually have some like lying around somewhere. If I find one of them, I'll let you know. I never really used them. I bought a couple to try, but I wasn't crazy about. If I find any, while I'm in my studio, Mike, I'll shoot you an email if you like those. Anytime if I have a piece of art supply that someone would actually use that I don't use, I'm happy to pass it along. You can see the light coming out from. And I think that you'll see like this will be pretty dark. We'll have maybe some light come out from the mouth opening up. Now, what we've done here, because we haven't shown the whole thing, what we need to set up is a shot where you see the boat, the ship, with the mouth open. We've established earlier in these pages what this is based on texture and color. This will be that gold color. Yeah, who else did I send art? I sent somebody some art supplies about a year ago because it was, I think it was pencil lead for one of those lead holders because I never use those anymore. Just mailed those to somebody. And here I'll start to pull off some of this pencil lead so that we can see better what we've done. When I've been in a deadline pinch, what I've done is I've scanned in my thumbnails, blown them up, and used them as my full-size layouts instead of redrawing from scratch. Now, that's going to translate some bad habits and some bad drawing technique. So, like, I never recommend that if you can avoid it, but it has saved me in a pinch. I won't lie, it has saved me on a couple of deadlines in the past. I think what we need here, now that I really look at it, is we need light coming out that like shoots across this whole area. So like beams of light where the spongemen are coming from. So it's more like, oh no, what's happening? This could be something scary. We can tell it's coming out of the mouth because of what we've established. We just needed to make it scarier. I think Desiree had a question. So do the Spongemen fight the Krill Force? The Spongemen and the Krill Force are on the same team. They're both working for the Correlator. So they do not fight each other in this fray. They have little flippers. One of my favorite things about drawing the Spongeman is, like, let's say Spongeman is making a peanut butter sandwich. The little arms on the Spongeman make little peanut butter sandwiches, like in the air, like they mime it. Always trying to think of a way to have motion in a panel, even if it's not like super obvious or most that they're tiny little knives and they're snorkels. And they're, the Spongeman is a non-gendered term. There are lady sponge persons, and not everyone has their sponge on their head. Like, that's varies from sponge person to sponge person. You can just, I think that's a nice easy cosplay, is to just have like basically a googly eyes and a wad of cotton that's orange as a hat. I think that would be like, you could even just have a like a sweatband or something. Like, that's the easiest cosplay, I think, out of the comic. And again, they don't have scuba tanks because the correlator is cheap sometimes, and that means that during the fight they have to swim back up to the surface and get air in between. Exactly, yes. Now, I'm not getting too detailed because we have to draw a bunch of figures here. We're just trying to get the spacing and the storytelling down. But trying to keep proportions, Anytime I'm drawing, I try to have some proportionality. Michael says, I really like that characters you draw are not stiff. Thank you very much. It's that's something I practice really hard on, so it's really nice of you to notice and to tell me that. I was going through some of those old sketchbooks, and that was really just having the elasticity and the movement was something that was really important to me. And I think I probably spent too much time on some of that stuff, but the thing I tell myself every time when I get to work on Undersea Hero and I write it down, this line, "It's supposed to be silly," has saved me so much heartache and stress over having to make sure everything is as perfect as can be. And I've definitely paralyzed myself doing drawings that, I don't know, it just was overthinking and being nervous. And, these are just little prelims. So having the movement now, if I don't have it at this stage, when I go to lock it down with like more accurate drawing, it's going to lose some of that, unfortunately. And here I'm just thinking about, like I said, the basic shapes. So one of the things I know about drawing groups of anything moving away from the camera is that they not only get smaller, but they get closer together. Even though they're the same distance apart, things get slowly closer together the further away they are. So right now I'm just tightening them up a little bit. Got to get the little sponge on them. Let's put this sponge like on his back, like a little backpack. Maybe this sponge will be like on his wrist. Maybe that one will be on his wrist. Sometimes they're on their chest, sometimes they're on their junk, sometimes they're on their back, sometimes they're just like, they're all different. If it can ever be funny, that's what we opt for. And again, we're relying on the gold here that we've established as the mouth to keep the storytelling consistent. By the time we get to our Undersea Hero, he's just a little tiny, almost stick figure. If you look at Alex Toth's sketchbooks, he did what he called alla prima drawings. And that's where he would just take a marker pen, and without doing this blue stuff, he would just draw. He would just, he would go right into it. Like, he would draw with no safety net. And there was so much life to it that I think even he recognized in his greatness that when he did his final pieces, that something was lost, that the spontaneity bore out. And one of the reasons I write like this and I work on my pages like this is because at each step, something new presents itself to keep the challenge alive. And it's exciting, because there's things being revealed to me as I'm working on it. That was actually not to put my work anywhere near what he did or his methodology, but that was something Crumb said in the documentary Crumb, was that something is being revealed to him as he's working on it. I'll probably work on this pose some before we get to the final page, but we'll keep erasing. This is how much time just goes into the prelims. I mean, if I don't put the work in here, when I'm going to the final page, I'm not going to know, up from down. What we can also do with the coloring, because it's underwater, we've got a big light source here. We have probably a light source back here to have like a little bit of shadow. Maybe his nose casts a little bit of a shadow, and his eye a little bit more. He's got a big chin. We'll have a little bit there. Cast from his lip. A little bit on the cheekbone. And then there's just some BS lighting that I made up, because that means our light source is there. We can have, and I actually did it and it came out great. That's one of the things I'm actually proud of from this issue, really proud of from this issue 0. In this panel here, you see that there's the light from we find is the neon sign of Poseidon's casino shining down on him, and he's just saying the casino is just so beautiful. But I dropped all the color from behind the main character. And this is the same color of the ground, this purple color. This is the rocks that he's in front of. And then here's the yellow of the light. But here, there's no color at all around this character. It does a good job of framing it and grounding it. It's just really, and then the cast shadow. So maybe we'll do something similar with this panel. And I'll denote it with something like a dotted line to be like drop color. And that means along the edge, dot 20% cyan ink screen. So like there will be a 20% barrier of cyan on the edge. We'll see how that looks. I might have to put like a 30 and a 40 to taper it. But that would be a really good way to show. I'm going to have to use my pencil to tighten this up a little bit. My character's so big, it's sometimes hard not to draw him gigantic. So you can see how far we've gotten on this page. I mean, it's a fun page. What's going on? We probably need to also have, like, you show the water disturbance, you know, of them leaving the pod. Something like that. Well, if we did that, we can actually have the water here, H2O, and then leave this white. All of this. And then this little burst, we could have that be the blue. That could be fun. Let's see what that looks like. Look this up so you can see it a little better. Smack. Show him hitting one. See, I had wondered if we could have the ship here, but there's not enough room. His head's shaped like a boot. So again, for those playing at home, Undersea Hero is basically like a giant little bean boot. At least his head is. It is 9:38. You guys have been hanging out watching thumbnailing for over an hour. My goodness. Thanks for hanging out with me. And as for the help on the Kickstarter, even just posting stuff, big help, sharing stuff, huge. Just if anybody has any pals that do, you know, like YouTube or streaming or involved in the comics media at all, let me know. I just have the most basic snorkel set up for the Spongeman. It's even like the cheapest of the cheap. It's like the one you'd find at Dick's Sporting Goods for $10. I'm going to ink this panel just because I think it's funny. This is like the long form of, I don't know, maybe like listening to somebody write a song or something as they go around with like trying to write all the guitar tabs or whatever. Maybe that's an equivalent. I don't know. If anybody's curious about an update on the saltwater tank, I got new algae for it last weekend and everything. I went out to the beach and actually caught a little spider crab to put in it. And I did catch a little puffer fish, but he was too small. I didn't want him to get eaten by the killifish. So probably only going to do one or two more cleanings of the tank, and then we'll let our friends go back to the sea as they get ready for winter. See, he's got his hand around the little spongeman's neck. As I've said in the past, if you want to see reference for Undersea Hero's hair, not drawn by me, if you look at the old Jim Aparo Aquaman's, the way he drew his hair always moving, it's always like floating in the water. Hey Al, how you doing? Thanks for popping in. We're just drawing some thumbnails, some prelims, working on the layouts. Speaking the praises of Comic Crusaders. This is the nitty gritty. This is all the structure beneath the finished drawings of a comic for me. It's part of the writing process. It's part of the drawing process. This is where all the ideas come out. Hey, I will be there with bells on, so I'll be thrilled to check out the new headquarters of Comic Crusaders International. I'm not thrilled with the first panel. We're going to finish it as it is, but I'm probably going to revisit that one. It tells the story, but it's the order of the reading is a little wonky. So maybe I have to flip the view. Like maybe he's catching with one hand and you're seeing the other guy get knocked to the side, but it's the reading order that I'm not thrilled with. because I color it and letter it and do everything on my own, I think of the colorism in this stage as well. And one of the things that you'll see happen with like some of the punch pages and panels and stuff like that is I will go with like just a bright 100% color, like whether it's magenta or yellow or whatever you'll see. A good example of that would be like the Batman 66 show, where not only did they have the giant sound effect, they would also have the color, the flat color. See, I thought of this visual gag for the little guy standing on top of sitting on top of the head. Well, I was doing a pitch for a tick story that never got used. It's just a character design. I was thinking about a way to make a really easy way to show emotion. And it was basically like having an emoji sitting on top of, a character's head. And just thinking about it in the abstract storytelling terms, I just thought it would be super useful. And see, there's an unused space here that has no reason for being unused. So we'll put Liquid Lad looking nervous. But see, there's a lot going on in that one tiny little panel. You've got a punch, you've got him catching a spongeman, and then you have a third thing happening with Liquid Lad looking all nervous underneath it. Now that we've included this, I do like this more. Hey, thanks, Michael. Thanks for popping in. I hope you have a good night. We only got 10 minutes or so left, so got a number of people in here, so I'll finish the last 10. I don't want to let anybody down. Making comics is hard and it's labor intensive, and people will ask me, well, what's your favorite part? And this is it, because the ideas are going, creative juices. And I feel like, while there are wrong answers and mistakes that are made, I just feel a lot of creative freedom at this point. Undersea Hero, doing like a fastball special, if you know that reference from the X-Men comics where Colossus would throw Wolverine. And then what we'll do is we'll show the Brian says, when it's your comic, you always have creative freedom. Yeah, I'm beginning to feel that. I do feel some pressure to make, something that is good enough for people to buy. And I don't know if my stupid ideas, like that's one of the scary things about this Kickstarter is I don't know if anybody, aside from the handful of wonderful people in this room right now, are going to be interested in it. So I'm trying to get the word out, and I'm sure if other people see it, I'll get more confidence as more people see it and they like it. And every time I've gone to a show and shown people, like whether it's the book or even just the flyer, and told people about it, I've come back with a little more juice. So. And as you can see, I'm not trying to tell like a dark, brooding Batman story. Some comics I loved when I was a kid was one called like Damage Control at Marvel, and it was done by an artist named Ernie Colon and a wonderful writer named Dwayne McDuffie. They did it together, and it was a silly Marvel comic about the people who had to clean up the messes after the superheroes would destroy things in the city. That's why it was called Damage Control. And I really liked a comic called What The? It's become like strangely a collector's item because they make up key comic status with the parodies that are in it. Sure, 3 or 4 years. Yeah, that'll be when it's Saturday mornings. I did have a major TV producer pick up my comic at one point. He also just happens to be my friend, so. I don't know if he'll enjoy the stupidity as much as I do. He's a smart fellow. Oh, absolutely. Friends count a bajillion bit. Not saying he doesn't count. My friends count immensely. They get me through. Every Wednesday, you guys help get me through the week. You guys save my butts at comic conventions. Just watching my table for 5 minutes while I can go use the restroom is a huge help. Or, when I'm in a strange city, I see people I haven't seen in years, or just a friendly face. I had one friend who I didn't expect to see at all randomly show up at the show all the way down in Philly. They don't live anywhere near Philly. I would be uncomfortable asking someone of that stature to even consider such a thing. I don't know. I wouldn't want to think that was like, I'm friends with him because we're friends. Like I don't want him to think. I don't want him to think that I would be trying to use him or, use his position in any way that was, I don't know. I don't know if he does any acquisitions or anything like that. I think he just develops his own stuff, but we'll see. I don't know. He's a really nice guy. Maybe he'll love the comic and be like, this needs to be a thing. Or he'll be like, I know a guy who would like this. So many of my friends have helped me so much with even just getting it out. But the Kickstarter is the first step, I think, for people discovering this weird, stupid little world of Undersea Hero and its fun, zany antics. Probably need something really like, really witty right here for a sound effect, like throw. Desiree says she'll ask him. Good. We have our official option representative. That's your title. International optioning executive. There we go. Need a little water. This is too centered. It loses its sense of motion, so we're going to need to move it down a little bit. And you'll see, like, this is, I don't even know if I have a 4-panel across shot in this entire first issue 0. No, I don't. Closest I have is a 2. So as far as the size of these panels, it'll actually be half of this. So you're going to have 4 little panels. And when you have a dense panel like that, it can slow down the reading. So there probably will not be any, like, just sound effects, smack, and then, I don't know, how do you do the sound of when someone sticks their tongue out? Is it just S-P-P-P-P-P-P-U-T, like sput? S-P-P-P-U-T, sput. And then crash. I will not be posting thumbnails on online, so you'll only be able to see them here and when they're in the final book. So I'm getting tired, so this last panel is going to be a little loose. It's also so small. Like, when I'm drawing this small, it's really tough for me to maintain a sense of scale. So I really even have to simplify it even more. And I just want him being thrown into other spongemen. Like, that's just the visual. I always like it when the hero throws like a bowling pin or whatever. It was something you'd see Brock Sampson do, except he would sometimes swing him like a baseball bat or whatever. I do know someone who could send it to the Astrobase Go folks, but I don't think they would. They have their own superhero stuff going on. I bet people logging in right now are just signing in and saying, what the heck is he drawing? What are these little stick figures? Yes, indeed, they are stick figures. When it's 11 by 17, they'll look like, well, stick figures, but like more identifiable stick figures. Wonderful stick figures. I have a second batch of shipments that I need to finish and get done this weekend. I've just been, like I said, dealing with life stuff, so some things have had to take a little longer than I like. And Shane, if you're still in here, your package will be in that group. That one's all set, except for, I think I gotta get your address for that. Desiree, I'm gonna try to have your Turtles piece inked as well. If we can get that off to you, that would be good. I actually have 2 international orders I have to ship, one going to England and one going to Spain, so we'll see what we can get done. Always more work, but I'm grateful you guys are so cool about just giving me the time to get them in the mail. Some people message me every day like, is it in the mail yet? Is it in the mail yet? Like, no, I'm sorry. I'm a terrible person. I have to follow up on a couple of invoices, which is another wonderful job of doing comics. Trying to make sure you get paid on time. Oh, no worries, Desiree. That's an easy one. And those will all fit in the same box, so it'll be easy peasy. I did see your picture from the Dodger game. Was it Fernando Valenzuela night? Is that what it was? I actually saw him pitch for the Orioles. He was, a little older then, but it was still fun to see. All right, well, let's zoom out. A fancy zoom, and you can see the whole page. And let's get our prior page. This is page 34. Like I said, we got about 10 pages to finish. This is page 33. So when we're on this page like this, we should see the page we were working on tonight, page 33, and then we turn the page to page 34, and on the left-hand side in the upper left, you have this nice anchor here, and then it works our way down there. So you can actually see page 33 to 34, the page turn, on how it'll look. And I actually think a lot about page turn mechanics. And I think one of the funny things of this page turn is your shot of the correlator here just absolutely just ticked. And then you flip over and he's just completely defeated. Like, really, Krill Force isn't ready? Okay. And then he sends his trusty Spongeman into the fray as Sergio would say. Well, it's 10:05. Thank you all for joining me. It's Krill or Be Krilled, a great title, great line. I'm going to put that on merchandise. Thank you. And here's a giant pile of pages that I still need to draw, but you got to see the start of it. So hope everyone has a good night, and I hope everyone has a lovely weekend, and I hope to see you next week. Good night, everybody.